One of the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of June 23, 2022. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of the witnesses and members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Interpretation for those on Zoom. You have the choice at the bottom of the screen of either Floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use your earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. And for members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best as we can. And we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. In accordance with the committee's routine proceedings or motion concerning connection tests, I'm informing the committee that all witnesses appearing virtually have completed the required connection tests. And pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Thursday, April 27, 2023, the committee will commence its study of menstrual equity in Canada, and that's what we'll be doing for the first hour today. I would now like to welcome our witnesses. We have witnesses here for the first hour, as I've indicated, and the second hour will be going back in camera. But for this portion, I would like to welcome from Sustainable Menstrual Equity Coalition, Madeline Shaw, who's the spokesperson, and she is on with us via video conference. From the Period Purse, Jenna Kurdauskas, thank you, and Danielle Kaftarian. And we're going to have to work on those ones. Sorry, ladies, I'm not very good at that today. And those ladies. And from the United Way, British Columbia, Suzanne Skidmore, who is the co-chair of the Period Purse Promise Campaign. She, too, is on video conference. We'll be providing each group 5 minutes to speak, and we'll be starting off with Sustainable Menstrual Equity Coalition. Madeline, you will have the floor for 5 minutes. When you see me moving my arm, that means you're down to about 10 to 15 seconds, and let's try to wrap it up during that time. So I'll pass it over to Madeline. Madeline, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Madeline Shaw, and I'm joining you today from Vancouver and the unceded traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I'd like to thank the committee for this study on menstrual equality and recognizing the need to address period poverty. The Sustainable Menstrual Equity in Canada Coalition, SMEC.
Can you hold for 1 moment, please? It's just very, very low. So we're just going to turn the volume up in the room just so that we can hear you a little bit better, okay?
How's this now?
Go for it.
Okay. The Sustainable Menstrual Equity in Canada Coalition, SMEC, is comprised of 3 women-led Canadian companies, Isle, Joni, and Be Free, that specialize in sustainable menstrual care products, many of which are Canadian-made. As a coalition, we cover the range of sustainable products, including eco-friendly disposable pads and tampons, reusable cups, cloth pads, and leak-proof underwear, providing a greater choice for users. We've been working for decades to address period poverty in Canada and have been advocating for policy changes, raising awareness, and establishing initiatives to provide sustainable menstrual products to those in need domestically and internationally. Period poverty refers to the lack of access to menstrual hygiene products, education, and facilities, often due to financial constraints. Other barriers, such as access to preferred products, geography, clean water, safe washroom space, and personal trauma, also make it difficult for some Canadians to fully access products and participate in day-to-day routine activities. Sadly, this issue is on the rise, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution to period poverty. It demands our leadership, empathy, and action. L'accès aux produits menstruels n'est pas...
Access to menstrual products is not a luxury. It's a human right, a fundamental human right.
According to a Planned Canada study, 26% of respondents indicated that they had gone through a period without having menstrual products available to them. This study also found that 68% of Canadians felt that their period prevented them from full participation in an activity. Imagine
being a teenager and missing school every month because you don't have the means to purchase menstrual products.
No person should be held back from achieving their full potential simply because they menstruate. Achieving universal menstrual equity is going to take more than just placing an endless supply of traditional, largely plastic-based disposable products in bathrooms. Achieving true menstrual equity means universal access to quality products of choice, education, and a stigma-free social climate. It means that we need to diversify not just product offerings, but access methods to people living in remote and rural areas, on reserves, living with disabilities, or without access to transportation. Access for those whose period simply arrives at an inconvenient time, or who have needs that do not fit into the bathroom access only model. In those moments when you are finally able to access a pad or tampon, it's worth asking what happens 3 or 4 hours later when the hunt for the next product begins again. SMAC and our products are critical to the success. Our products provide a range of benefits beyond those of mainstream disposables, including financial savings, greenhouse gas reduction, waste management, innovative solutions, and job creation in Canada. SMAC's longtime experience with supporting Canadians with access to safe, effective, eco-friendly menstrual care products has shown us that offering diverse solutions, both disposable and reusable, is the most effective, equitable, and inclusive way to counter period poverty. We are encouraged by the federal government's creation of the Menstrual Equity Fund and the changes made to the Canadian Labour Code. It's a critical first step, but we can and need to do better. This is an opportunity for Canada to take the lead on a global level. Already, countries like Scotland are providing free, disposable, sustainable, and reusable products to all its citizens. Our opportunity is to deploy a Team Canada approach by leveraging the innovation of our own homegrown women entrepreneurs to set a new sustainable standard. This is also a pivotal moment to ensure that Canadian women-led small and medium-sized businesses are included in the procurement of products in the government's programs, and that a choice of sustainable, disposable, and reusable products are also offered according to each individual's needs. Let's work together to ensure that every person in Canada who menstruates has access to the necessary resources and support, empowering them to live their lives to the fullest without fear or shame. Encore une fois, merci pour.
Again, thank you for the invitation today.
Look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
And thank you so much. I'm now going to move over to the period purse. Danielle and Janet, you have 5 minutes to share, so just mix it up between the two of you. 5 minutes, you've got your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm Danielle Cafeterian, Operations Manager at the Period Purse. The Period Purse started in 2017 when our founder was driving to work one day while at a red light, someone was panhandling at her car window and she had nothing to give them. That's when she had an aha moment. What does someone do that's unhoused while on their periods? She had never thought of it, and when I heard of this aha moment, I had one of my own. As we explored the answer to that question, we started to learn more about the broader picture of period poverty in Canada and unpack many of the issues surrounding it, how it impacts 1 in 7 of unhoused to employed folks. As the menstrual movement has spread across Canada, with so many like-minded organizations supporting those who need it, we sit in front of you today as an expert in menstrual equity to help advocate for those who are not here today. We know from a Plan Canada study in 2022 that 22% of menstruating Canadians are using period products longer than they should because they can't afford more. That number rises to 33% whose unhousehold income is $50,000 or less, and it increases even further to 48% for Indigenous people. The Period Purse is the first national charity to help alleviate period poverty. We've donated almost 4.8 million period products across Canada through our outreach program, and we've educated over 5,000 people with period-positive presentations. Our mission is to create menstrual equity by ensuring sustainable access to period products for all, and by ending the stigma associated with periods through education and advocacy. When we speak to those in the communities we support, we've heard many stories where people are choosing food over tampons, missing work and school, stealing products, makeshifting tampons out of things and pads out of things like old rags, toilet papers, and sponges, leading to infections. I think we would all agree this is not okay. I want everyone to take a moment and reflect. Did anyone pack toilet paper in case they needed the washroom while they were here today? Or did we just come to know that it would be available if we required it? Using the washroom is something we can't control. It's biological. Same thing goes for periods. So why are period products not in washrooms like toilet paper and soap? As we begin to examine the barriers to accessing period products, affordability is a big one. It's estimated that Canadian women will spend up to $6,000 a lifetime on menstrual products. That's an extra expense that menstruators need to budget for. We hear stories like Asha, who lives in Northern First Nations territory, who tells us that a box of tampons can cost 4 to 5 times more than what's purchased in large urban cities. Even rural cities have drastic higher prices than products here in Ottawa. Where you live in Canada should not be a barrier to the availability and cost of period products. The Period Purse provides education on various subjects around periods, from what they are to why menstrual equity is important. Many are unaware of the options beyond disposable pads and tampons, so we teach reusable products, how to use them, clean them, and products like menstrual cups, cloth pads, and period underwear, empowering folks to choose products that are better for them. Best for them. And while we know that many lack the access to clean water and it prevents people from choosing reusable products as their preferred option, boil water advisories are just another barrier to consider while working towards menstrual equity. Providing choice of products ensures that we're considering things like cultural and religious beliefs, as well as sexual trauma, all things that can impact one's preferred choice of product. I've heard countless stories from students who are missing out on class time to track down products from friends, guidance counselors, or teachers' desk drawers, all because products were not in the washroom. Saying students should carry products with them at all times is not taking into account that this could be their first period or unexpected as they're learning how their bodies work. I also know of stories where male students saw products in boys' washrooms and they could take them home for their mother or sister who needed them. Such a simple step to reduce stigma around periods. And as we work alongside community partners that support 2S LGBTQ+ people, we know that having safe washrooms is critical to menstrual equity. All people who menstruate deserve to have access to free products. Without access to washrooms, transgender and non-binary people may have to choose between a washroom that matches their gender identity and one that has the period products and amenities they need. Entering in a washroom that doesn't align with one's gender identity and expression can be dangerous, both mentally and physically. In closing, as you can see, there are many layers to things to unpack around this topic, and we've only scratched the surface today. As more people become comfortable, there'll be more stories told and more things to learn. Menstrual equity isn't just about handing out pads and tampons. It needs to coincide with education and advocacy to make impactful changes. I'm pleased to see that the federal government of Canada, as well as other levels of government, are striving towards taking steps forward to support the goal of menstrual equity. I would love to continue this conversation with anyone who would like to learn more after today. I hope everyone walks away learning something new and perhaps your own aha moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And online, we will now turn to Suzanne Skidmore from the United Way, British Columbia. Suzanne, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thanks for having me to the committee and the invitation to present on this really important issue. My name is Suzanne Skidmore, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm calling in from the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. For the past 5 years, I've been a volunteer co-chair for the United Way's Period Promise campaign with the United Way here in British Columbia, and I'm also the president of the BC Federation of Labour. United Way British Columbia began working on menstrual equity and period poverty in 2016 and launched the first of its annual campaigns to collect and distribute products to nonprofits and charities in 2017. Since then, we have been able to distribute more than 2.5 million menstrual products to hundreds of community organizations. In our first collection, we managed to gather and distribute 30,000 menstrual products. We were convinced that this mountain of tampons, pads, cups, liners, and underwear was going to provide a meaningful long-term support to our community. Oh, sorry, my computer's just glitched on my notes here. Apologies.
Take your time. It's all good.
Thank you. Sorry. I got a phone call coming in. That was really what the problem was. Apologies for that. All right, there we go. There we go. So we took 15,000 products down and donated them to an organization providing crucial supports in Vancouver's downtown east side. And we were thanked by organizations' leadership. And then they told us this will last for 3 months. We learned very quickly that this is a bigger issue than we had thought. Since then, our collection campaign has grown substantially. In 2023, we hope to gather and distribute as many as 700,000 products into more than 100 community organizations across British Columbia. To accomplish this, we are learning on key partners, leaning on partners like Tampax and Always, Pacific Blue Cross, ISLE, Joni, and countless others. But we've learned that a campaign of any size won't provide people living in precarity with the reliable access that they deserve. As a result, we've also been doing important work in 3 other areas. First, we developed a policy agreement that organizations of any shape can sign on to. By joining into the commitment, employers, unions, community organizations, grassroots collectives, school districts, and post-secondary institutions and municipalities have committed to providing no-cost, stigma-free access to people who menstruate. We've shared this with the United Ways across the country, and more than 65 organizations have signed on. Second, we've built collectives to help people with lived and living experience. Grassroots activists, academics, and community organizations work together to build awareness and shape solutions. We have one that is focused on work being done in British Columbia and another one that coordinates efforts to advocate to the federal government. We're excited to see that many of these partners have been invited to participate in these hearings. Third, we've done a lot of research into the issue of period poverty in British Columbia. It's shown us that around 90% of the community organizations that we provide products to are asked for free products more than once a week, and more than 90% are reliant on public donations of physical product to support their needs. The largest portion of our data is from research we conducted with the government of British Columbia, and which was published in 2021 as the Period Promise Research Project's final report. We found that nearly 51% of people who menstruate in British Columbia have struggled to purchase product for themselves at some point, and those who struggled to purchase product for the dependents had a 98% likelihood of struggling to purchase products for themselves as well. And just over 30% of the respondents said that they didn't know where to purchase products that they could afford. We also saw how common missing out on community is for those who don't have access to products, turning menstrual products into a gateway for accessing community. More than 18% of respondents had missed school, 22% had missed work, 29% had missed out on community events, and 27% had missed out on social activities. All of those numbers have increased for people with lower family incomes, Indigenous folks, people living with disabilities, and immigrants or refugees. We also found that having access to free products in community helps 75% of respondents be more engaged in their community and improved overall wellness. Here's one testimony that we collected during our research that proves it. And the quotation is, "By having a workplace that supports menstrual hygiene and provides access to free menstrual products, I find myself more at ease when it comes to having my period. As someone with a heavy flow and abnormal cycle, I'd always be anxious about whether I remember to bring enough menstrual products with me. For the unlucky days where I didn't have any or enough on me, I'd have to resort to folding enough toilet paper to create a makeshift pad. I'd spend the rest of the day worrying with thoughts running through my head like, am I leaking? Did it seep through? Free and accessible menstrual products provide me with the freedom to continue with my day and the confidence in knowing that I have one less thing to worry about." Today, more people are struggling with affordable basic needs due to the cost of living and inflation crisis that we are all experiencing across this country. Work on increasing access to free menstrual products and reducing menstrual stigma is urgently needed. This means providing good quality product, a variety of options, easy, regular, and reliable access, and building supports for the most vulnerable in our community. Thanks for inviting us to be part of today's conversation, and happy to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've had our presentations and we're on to the round of questioning. It will begin with 6 minutes each from each party. So we'll be starting online with Dominique Vienne. Dominique, I'll pass the floor to you for 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to participate in our study today. A more general question that would be for all of our witnesses, Madam Chair. The Minister came to us in May and stated, and some of you have mentioned it, an equity fund for feminine products, $25 million over 2 years. It seems that the project is not well defined. It will be a pilot project, and the national organization that would be responsible for it has not yet been determined. What recommendations would you make so that this pilot experience bears fruit and so that it solves issues? So what are your expectations for this pilot project, and who should be responsible for it? Thank you.
Une de nos invités.
Perhaps I'll start with Suzanne.
Sure. Great question. I'll do my best to answer the question. I mean, the reality is a pilot project is awesome. I'm excited it's happening. But what I expect to see is that the pilot project turns into something permanent and sustainable. I think that the government has a responsibility to provide these services to folks across the country, and realistically starting with those who need it the most. But the reality is those who menstruate in this country are paying, the period tax we all talk about. And we need to help relieve and alleviate some of that stress, financial stress this is causing on folks. And so the government of Canada and the provincial governments as well need to step up and support this. I mean, you heard it from several of the other speakers, the piece around, the products that are available to us in washrooms when we need to wash our hands and use toilet paper are available at no cost to us. We don't travel around with them in our purses in the same way that we do period products. And my expectation is that they should be treated just like that as well. So thanks for the question.
Madeleine, est-ce que vous avez une...
Madeleine, would you have something to add on what the project should look like and who should be responsible for it? Because we don't currently have a lot of information.
Yeah, this is a wonderful question, and we're excited about this initiative. The things that we would love to see as SMEC included in part of it are a commitment to sustainability, as well as I mentioned, some directive around procurement, ideally inclusive of Canadian women-led small and medium-sized businesses, because it's one thing to say, well, their period poverty is a problem. We need products, but without support for the agencies who are going to be delivering those products and those programs in terms of knowing what those products are and where they could come from, I think there's a bit of a missing piece there. Also, a commitment to understanding how diverse solutions affect different populations is really important. As for the administration, I agree that a national charity, something like the United Way, would be an ideal partner, but I'm sure there are others, and I do know that the government is considering those options. So thank you very much.
Je sais pas combien...
I'm not sure how much time I have left, but Danielle, 2 minutes. Danielle, you've piqued my curiosity. Because it cannot be easy for homeless women to have access to menstrual products. For example, chez Doris at Montreal or other shelters in Montreal, these women are already stigmatized. How do things go on the street for these women?
Yes, there's so many different stories that we hear when it comes to needing to get access of products. And that's why we need to work with shelters, libraries, food banks, even like different community partners that are out there on the streets from the vans going around or whatnot. And it's really about ensuring that when we're accessing those folks, we provide them choice and education of, where you can access products, different types of products that are there. We sometimes will go in and educate different locations to teach folks on different things. And going back to your original question of sort of where we should go with this, with the pilot program, is really seeing that who's selected has a ability to provide that education, do choice, and work with so many of the organizations that are out there doing work and specializing in the community partners that they work with to get supplies out to folks. We already know how to do it. So many groups like us know how to do it. So let's just kind of continue that on and give funding to those groups to provide that support.
Question dernière.
Last question. Oh, I don't think I have any time left. Do I, Madam Chair?
And more thank yous.
C'est ça. Merci. Mais alors, merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. We're now going to stay online, and it's going to be Emanuela Lombropoulos. Emanuela, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to begin by thanking all of our witnesses for being here to enlighten us on this issue. I think that it's something that we don't often think about, and it's not super obvious. But once you do think about it, it becomes really obvious, and you guys have shed light on that situation. As a past teacher, I hear about how many kids are possibly missing school because of this, and that particularly really touches me very much, and makes it really hard to hear and to, I guess, come to the reality that this is as big a situation as it is. I also have a pretty a community that, you know, part of the community I represent has a lot of needs financially, and I can only imagine that buying these products are not at the top of their list when they can barely feed their families with some weeks and some months. I also think that there's a lot of stigma attached to this issue, as you guys have mentioned. And because of that, I'm sure we have no idea what the real number is of people who actually need these products and who can't afford them. And so there are a whole bunch of issues that I guess we need to kind of dive into. You guys have all kind of given some potential solutions, and also the problems that are associated with each one. There's obviously a huge number that is required because women or people menstruate for a week every month. And that means that they need to change these products often enough, and it's not enough to just have products that are not reusable. Madeline Shaw, you spoke about using Canadian innovation and using Canadian businesses and women-led businesses. I guess in many instances, it's often women-led businesses that would create these kinds of products in order to kind of fill that gap and perhaps come up with or work with government to have a solution. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on what that would look like and how the government of Canada can help in that regard?
Thank you so much for this question. Yeah, I mean, funding to support women entrepreneurs is something that is always necessary in order to drive innovation in the country. And in the SMEC Coalition, we've got some incredible examples of that. So myself, I've been active on this issue and developing reusable products since 1993. So ISLE was one of the first companies in the entire world, not just Canada, to truly pioneer reusable products in a general sort of sense. We also have the Be-Free Cup, which is a remarkable, this is one of the most important innovations in menstrual cup technology in the world, in that it doesn't require boiling to be cleaned. This is super relevant for remote and First Nations communities where, access to potable water is an issue. Joni provides dispensers that can be used in bathrooms to provide all kinds of different sustainable disposable products. So really, we're looking at diverse solutions to address multiple different types of needs, whether somebody's a student or somebody who's working or somebody is insecurely housed, to meet the needs of those diverse populations, because we have the lived experience of, living in bodies that menstruate and being out in the world and trying to make a living and trying to learn and trying to parent and trying to do all these different things. And so I think being given a voice, being invited right here today to have a voice for our opinion to matter, for our experience to matter, and to not just be seen as, they're businesses, they're just looking to make money. We are some of the most knowledgeable, dedicated leaders in this country when it comes to not just menstrual equity and period poverty, but small business and, as you said, innovation. We're here to help and to join Team Canada to address period poverty and make menstrual equity a solution that's something we can achieve in our lifetimes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I guess you would be supportive of if the government had, let's say, a fund specifically for companies to use or to provide innovation monies in order to kind of create these kinds of products, of course.
Yeah, I would. But I would also argue that we already have the products. We are already doing this. I think that the innovation that's required is around distribution and access. We've got fantastic products, but a lot of people, this bathroom only kind of solution, we need to think beyond that and diversify accessibility for people for whom that just is not a reality. So that's a place that I would look, and I would welcome the government's support in doing that, because yeah, like I said, we have the products. We just need to figure out new ways, and education too, like what they're offering at the period purse. Like, how do we make that national? How do we find more partners for that? And understanding that this is not a one size fits all solution. It's a wraparound solution that we need to meet people who menstruate where they are, as opposed to saying, hey, you've got to go to a bathroom to find a product.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Danielle Kefterian, you spoke about the importance of having these products accessible in bathrooms because, many people are irregular. They may not know when their period is coming. And it's something that affects more than just those who are experiencing period poverty, but just generally women, people who menstruate in general, right? So if we were to, in what way do you think that the federal government can play a role in making these products more accessible, even disposable ones, more accessible in just general in places where people can go to the washroom?
You've got about 15 seconds maximum because we're over time here. So just a short response.
Absolutely. So I think it's just considering where people menstruate go. So in the washrooms is perfect as a touch point in that first step. They're already there. They're needing the products. So let's get them there. And then, like Madeline was saying, thinking out of the side of the box of other places. So food banks, community centers, different places where people will need products. So I'm getting the wrap up. So I'll wrap up there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're now going to pass it over for the next 6 minutes to Adrienne Laroche. Adrienne, 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for being with us today. We know that there are more and more places around the world that have been looking into menstrual equity. Ms. Kefterian, during your opening remarks, you talked about the impacts of 1 out of 7 women. Up until now, we've talked about young girls in schools and homeless women, but could you tell us more about the impact, the 1 out of every 7 women that you mentioned in your opening remarks?
So 1 out of 7 women will struggle with their periods and getting products out to them. So it can be anything from like what we talked about with schools. A student needs a product, whether they have challenges of their family affording it or not. It's about getting that product, going and using discovering they need their product while they're in the washroom, locating it wherever it is in the school, going back, using the washroom, going back to school, to their classroom. They miss out on class time. We know that families are struggling to afford just day-to-day tasks as inflation increases, all sorts of different things there. And they're choosing to put, food on the table or spend $15 on a box of tampons. So this is all decisions that are causing people to struggle to afford period products. And so it's not just about people who are unhoused. It's also about those people that are living on the cusp, and we're seeing that in our food banks. I work very closely with many of them, and people are requesting these products now that it's becoming more open in the food banks and needing these products. So it is starting to expand, and like we were saying, where Madeline, I think, said it, is we're seeing as more people become more comfortable, more people are asking for it. So we don't know what those true numbers are.
Merci beaucoup pour cette réponse.
Thank you for this response, Ms. Kefterian. I now have a question for Ms. Skidmore. In responding to a colleague's question, you talked about the pink tax, the period tax. I had tried to present a study where products that are pink cost more and that women are financially disadvantaged for many reasons. They have to invest more for daily hygiene products than men. And I had wanted to table that study at the committee, but I would like for you to come back to that when you were talking about a period tax. Should we also talk about the pink tax as well? That adds costs according to the color of the product.
Thanks for the question. Whether you call it a pink tax or a gender tax or whatever, I mean, I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's not just women who menstruate, that there are people of all genders who menstruate, and we need to make sure that they are, talked about as we have these conversations. I think that's really important as well. But there is no doubt, and everyone on this call who's on the Zoom and everyone who's in the room there with you, well, most of the people in the room with you, I suppose, that the lived experience is, for a lot of us is that we do pay a lot more for a lot of different things. But I think it's important, right now that we focus in on talking about this issue, particularly because it impacts so many people in our communities, and the issue of period poverty is only getting worse and worse. And we need to make sure that we're, working, like Madeline had said, with the companies and the organizations as well who are doing this work, are experts in this field, and continue to push the bar, making sure that we're breaking down the stigma around period poverty, periods in general, that we talk about it more openly and, break down that stigma. It's a huge issue for a lot of people. I have to say, if you'd asked me about 10 years ago whether I'd spend most, a couple days a week talking about period poverty, periods in general, period products, I probably would have said no. I would never have pictured myself doing this work. And now it is like we live and breathe it over here in British Columbia. So, I think that's a huge issue also, but I really think it's important that we stay focused on moving this issue forward, because it's really important.
Merci, Moudou.
Thank you very much, Ms. Skidmore. As a spokesperson for gender equality, I completely agree that there are people of various genders that can menstruate. Ms. Kafterian, thank you very much for talking about food banks and including menstrual products in the baskets. So these are things that people are looking for. I'll end quickly with Ms. Grodzka. How can we talk about an awareness campaign at the federal level without interfering with the provincial jurisdictions? How can we do that? Thank you.
20 seconds to respond.
Yeah, that's a good question. In Canada, there's only a handful of provinces that have moved forward and actually put money into period poverty. A lot have started with schools and putting free period products in schools. So it's looking to where the federal government has that jurisdiction, but also helping rolling out the money to the people who are on the grounds doing the work already and getting those folks paid. A lot of the organizations are volunteer people and trying to get donations in, and whether it's reducing the stigma, getting education, or rolling out that outreach, that's where the federal government needs to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're now going to go back online with Leah Gazan. Leah, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for coming. I wanted to ask my first question to Madeline Shaw. You indicated that access to menstrual health products was in fact a human right. I agree with you. These are human rights, and as Jana Gurdowska, sorry about the name pronunciation, indicated, we don't have to ask for toilet paper when we go to the washroom. We don't have to say, is toilet paper part of the deal, right? And but we still have to do that for menstrual health products. You said this is a human right. Would you agree that a failure of the federal government, all levels of government, in fact, is a very clear violation of this right? And I know you spoke about how the federal government has implemented the equity project, but I know that you indicated that they must do better. Do you feel if they fail to do better, they continue to violate this human right?
Many thanks for that question. So these are amazing times that we're living in. I would start off by saying, I've been working on this issue for 30 years and basically come from a place where nobody wanted to talk about it. And there was no question that you would have to pay for a menstrual product in a bathroom if you were lucky enough to find one there, and just women coded bathrooms at that. So the activity and the leadership that we've seen provincially and from the federal government and from NGO activists, from the United Way, from Period Purse, there's this incredible groundswell that's happening across not just Canada, but Canada is leading this. Canada has an incredible opportunity.
So just in saying that, though, because I have a limited amount of time, is a failure to do that a violation of a human right? Yes or no? To provide menstrual health products.
I do see it that way personally. Yes,
okay.
I do.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to the Period Purse, Jana, you spoke about access, the issue around access to clean drinking water. Again, having access to clean drinking water is a human right. But a failure to have access to clean drinking water, we talk about, just to drink, but it also intersects with the human rights violation in terms of the failure to ensure menstrual equity. How critical is it for the federal government to get rid of all water boil advisories to ensure they can truly support menstrual equity in Canada? Thank you.
This is Danielle speaking. So yes, we need to take into consideration the boil water advisories in so many communities. Often we think about how they just affect with drinking water and cooking, but they do intersect with menstrual equity. So a lot of the reusable pads, period underwear, cups need to be boiled and cleaned correctly in order to keep them working properly and being sterile. We also need access to clean water to clean ourselves, wash our hands, etc. So all of having boil water advisories and people not having access to clean water affects so many layers of this, and it is something that needs to be dealt with.
Thank you so much, Danielle, and I apologize for calling you Jana to begin with, but in any case, thank you so much for your excellent testimony. I want to move on to Suzanne Skidmore with United Way. You said something, and I mean we're celebrating Pride Month right now as we speak, and you said, people of all genders menstruate. Again, I go back to this whole issue around human rights. The ability to access menstrual health products as a human right, the ability to access clean drinking water as a human right, and how it impacts the human rights or a violation of human rights to menstrual equity. Moving on to you, in terms of, you said people of all genders menstruate. Can you expand on that? And what, through a human rights lens, what would that look like in terms of providing equal access to menstrual health products? Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. That's a great question. As a out queer person, I'm pretty familiar with having this conversation. The reality is that trans men menstruate, trans people who are non-binary are also people who are menstruating, and for them to not have access to products creates an additional barrier, an additional violation of human rights to those folks, and adding that extra layer of what potentially for some folks can put them in very dangerous situations. As yes, it's Pride Month, and it's a great reminder that folks who are trans and non-binary are facing additional violence and fear. And so to put somebody in a situation where they're in a bit of a critical need to get products because they're menstruating, and then they have to out themselves in community because they're asking for product is 100% a violation of a human right. And, we really need to make sure that we are being inclusive when we do this work. So thank you very much for the question.
Awesome. Now, Leah, I can see your mouth. You're so ready to ask your next question. I love that about you, but we'll come to you again. So I'm going to turn it now over to Anna Roberts. We'll be starting our second round. 5 minutes starts to Anna. So go ahead. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses. So I have a few concerns and some questions.
So as of January 2023, 70% of people miss school or work due to their period. So in May of this year, the minister announced $25 million over 2 years. But in December of 2022, it was announced that the minister announced access to free menstrual products to all federally regulated workplace. Last October, the Ontario government made a 3-year deal with Shoppers Drug Mart to offer free feminine hygiene products in school. So I have a couple of questions. So these plans are in place, but yet the numbers, 70%, are still missing either school or work. So we've got all these plans, we've got all these, funds being delivered to help, but yet the number's quite high. Do you have any stats on why that is? Because I'm a little confused when we're investing $25 million, we're giving free products, but yet we still have 70%. Like, it just, the numbers don't jive for me, and maybe you could help me understand that better. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. I think first it signals how big the gap is and how big the need is here. So let's do the school, just as in the interest of time. So yes, the Ontario government put money towards putting products in schools, and it was an incredible first step forward. That products worked out to be about 7 pads per student, I believe, for the entire school year. So if we think on average, menstruator can use up to 25 to 35 pieces of product per cycle. So if they don't even have enough pads donated for 1 cycle of a menstruator for a student. Also for the schools, it was only for high school students and above, when we know that menstruation starts as early as grade 5. So the elementary schools and middle schools were left out of that. Some of the school boards stepped forward and reallocated some products, but it still wasn't enough products for all of the communities. So this is where we need other parts of the government, organizations like ourselves, to step in and fill in those gaps, to give menstruators products for the entire year, school cycle that they might require, opposed to just 1 period. Giving them at home for work. There's so many different areas. So really it's a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of gaps in there that we need to fill in.
Okay, thank you for that. So what you're saying then is that even though as of May they announced $25 million invested over 2 years, that's not going to make a difference, is what you're telling me?
No, I disagree. It will make a substantial difference. Will it be enough to completely solve the problem? I can't answer that. This is where we're going to see what that threshold is, but we need to come together and help people. If we get people at work, working, that means that they're going to earn more income to potentially be able to afford their own products eventually down the road if they save money. So it's about we don't know what that threshold is for capping it, but we do know that we need to meet people where they are right now, and there's a huge gap that needs to be filled that we need to step in and fill.
So with a lot of people working from home these days, but these products are being offered at work, they still don't have access to them. Is that correct?
That's correct. So this is where we need to have creative things. If people are working from home, where can they access those products? Can they get it from a different location? I think what we need to remember is people can afford their products. They're going to buy what they want and they choose. We need to support those that are out and about and get their periods when they don't expect it, as well as those who can afford them. And that's where that's where we need to work with community partners so that they can have those touch points to get that product.
So I spoke to a company recently because I was kind of interested and I knew that this study was coming up. So maybe you could help me with my next question. And because I asked, how come the price has increased with these products that all women here need? And one of the things they said was it was due to the inflation, due to the carbon tax, everything, the shipping of the products, getting them to the locations has impacted the increase in cost. So although there's no tax when you purchase these products, that doesn't, it still affects the fact that the cost is going to be much higher. What solution would you have for us as the government to make those products more affordable?
About a 15-second response.
Yes. I really don't know the economics behind how to make it affordable, but I do know that we need to take that into consideration. The prices are increasing. I'm seeing them, like you said, increase substantially. So if there is something that we can take as a step forward, that would be a great thing for this government to explore.
Maybe
Awesome.
we should cut out
Thank
the
you
carbon
so,
tax.
Thanks so much. We're now going to
Thank
pass
you.
it on over to Sonia Sidhu, who is online. Sonia, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for appearing today on this important issue. My questions will be directed to Ms. Shah from the Sustainable Menstrual Equity. Ms. Shah, how do you envision ensuring access to free menstrual equity products to all public spaces, such as schools, libraries, malls, workplaces, and other community facilities? We know that by December 15th of this year, all federally regulated workplaces and buildings will require free pads and tampons in every toilet room. We also heard the barriers, which groups are harder to reach typically, and how do you work to overcome these barriers?
Thank you very much for that question. So yeah, this is an issue that we've given a great deal of thought to at ISLE in particular, but I know that we're not alone in this. So it's what we call an approach called user-centered access, where we consider where the people are who need menstrual products first, as opposed to this bathroom-only access model, which of course we acknowledge is essential as a first step. So one of the things we do, for example, is issue gift cards that can be redeemed electronically that allow someone to shop, choose their own products, exactly what they want, get those products sent to their homes. So the question is no longer like, how do I get to a bathroom? Where will I find that? But rather, how can we make these solutions work for me? So that is something we've had huge success with. And we've been working with employers like Canada's largest credit union, Vancity, who issued thousands of dollars worth of these gift cards to their employees, allowing them in this day and age, so many people, as you pointed out, are working from home. So to come into a bathroom is an inconvenience for them. So it allowed them to shop online to choose exactly the products that they wanted and needed. So it's that type of thinking of like what I would call outside of the bathroom, not just outside of the box, of access points. You've got examples like McGill University has recently handed out tons of Joni and ISLE products to their students, just in the middle of like student, thoroughfares, and just offering education and peer support, and basically taking the products to the students in this case, as opposed to, again, making the student go to a bathroom, ask someone, that type of thing. Like just this free public discourse really also encouraged not just product access, but kind of taking away the stigma and taking away the shame and encouraging positive conversations. So there are real opportunities here beyond just product access, but those are a couple of examples for you.
Thank you. And in your experience, what have been the most effective way to raise awareness, especially in diverse and rural communities?
Well, social media has been a wonderful tool, and I would commend the United Way. I would commend the Period Purse for really, conveying the message that menstrual products is about so much more than just, cleaning up a mess or solving a problem. This is about jobs. This is about education. This is about a future for youth to be able to fully participate in life. So seeing the campaigns that have been created around the Period Promise and I think also, so the Period Purse, another great example, we co-created with them at ISLE some educational materials for Indigenous youth living in the Mohawk Nation. And so we collaborated with elders, and we, understood the language, traditional Mohawk language for terms related to menstruation, and created educational materials that were culturally specific and respectful to them. So I think there's a lot of room for creativity. I guess I would caution against a one size fits all. Like, I think this is a case where we really want to think about the needs of diverse populations, whether they're transgender and non-binary people, whether they're new Canadians, whether they're youth, these types of things, and really pay a lot of attention to their lifestyles, their educational needs, and their cultural considerations.
And Ms. Skidmore, did you want to speak about the best practices for raising awareness as well?
For sure. We've done some creative things like Madeline was talking about here in British Columbia, and we've gone to some sort of definitely non-traditional folks to talk about this. So we've gone to, like men in leadership positions who, are leaders in what would be sort of non-traditional places where we'd see women, but like the president of the International Longshore Workers Union, who's kind of a gruff, burly guy, but he's super outspoken. He's one of our biggest advocates on this. So, I think that's being creative and making sure we're getting there far and wide. I see you.
You're awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for watching me. I'm now going to pass it for the next 2.5 minutes to Adrienne Laroche. Adrienne?
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses for your participation. For my last turn, my questions will be directed at Ms. Shaw. I had mentioned that there are initiatives in cities and provinces in Quebec in order to improve menstrual equity. The City of Montreal announced on June 1st the launch of the accessibility in municipal buildings to menstrual products. It would include tampons, pads in various public buildings, and it would allow people to have access to these products freely. The Government of Canada made an announcement on May 10th that there will be an obligation to offer menstrual products to staff, and there are more and more initiatives like this in the country. This is good news for equity in access to menstrual products, but what could the federal government do more? I think that Quebec and the provinces need to act because it is up to them to be responsible for health, but what could the federal government do more? Of course, while respecting the provincial jurisdictions. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Quebec in many ways has led the country in innovative ways of dealing with menstrual equity and period poverty. For example, offering vouchers that can be redeemed by citizens in multiple cities and municipalities as one idea. I think that one of my main asks coming out of today is that calling on each of you as members of Parliament to pass a resolution to find inclusive and sustainable solutions to period poverty. So, we have some of the answers. I don't think we have all of the answers. And I think this is an opportunity for the government to use the ingenuity and leadership that's in this space right now to come up with new solutions. And that can include things like the voucher idea, that can include things like our electronic gift card idea, can include diverse distribution points, and basically looking at all of it and divorcing ourselves from a mindset that we're looking for the holy grail of menstrual equity and that there is one way to do this. There is not one way to do this, and I need to wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Madeline. You're fantastic. We're now going to go on to the last set of questions and pass it over to Leah Gazan. Leah, you've got the floor for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you so much. My question is for Suzanne Skidmore. We know that not-for-profits are really struggling providing, menstrual health products. I would argue, I think we've kind of taken this charity model to this human right, where it needs to be a government-funded model because it is a human right, and it shouldn't be left outside of government's responsibility to provide this kind of health care for people who menstruate. Would you agree with that? And what do you think needs to change to support that human right in, for example, not-for-profits?
Thank you. I 100% agree with that. The charity model is a Band-Aid solution to a problem that is, well, it's astronomically larger than we even think it is. The data that we have collected here in British Columbia only provides us with so much. And I think that government needs to work with the community organizations, the nonprofits on the ground, to make sure that they have funding for these products, because those are where people go. But it shouldn't be on the backs of those organizations to, be able to draw out of the funds that they use for other things. And this really should be a government solution, and there should be access to these products for everyone who needs them. So thanks for the question, Leah.
Yes, thank you so much. And could you please expand on that, Danielle, from the period person? I see the chair. Would you be able to expand on that? I know you spoke about that.
Okay, so yes, we should be considering about. Sorry, I just heard something weird. We should be considering the broader spectrum of like, where do we get the products out to? It's not just charities, using all of the touch points that we've talked about, and also providing that education to ensure that people know where to access the product, but people know how to find them. So like, how do you set up free products in your school? How do you set up free products in your workplace? That should be part of the consideration of what we're doing when putting those products out into places.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do I have any more time?
Time is
I
up,
saw you
lady.
rolling.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I try to work with you, Thank you so much. On behalf of the committee, I would really like to thank you all for the superb, this has been our kickoff to this study, so thank you very much for all of the superb testimony that you brought forward today. It's a very important study that we're beginning, and we do really appreciate your time. Okay, we're looking good? We're looking good? Everybody's good? Okay. No? Leah, I'm going to come right out. Leah, you're good?
Yes.
Okay. We will
Sorry.
suspend.
Yes.
you.